252.
Welcome to another episode of Retronerds 252. This is Frank G here, along with my friends
Ralphie D
and Coolwater Kurt.
In 1986, a revolution occurred. Many of us were still playing Atari, ColecoVision, and television, and a bunch of other budgety stuff. But for the most part, the general public was tired of video games. The 2600 had blown up so much that all the garbage games got out there. The 2 for $1 bin showed up. There was just a flood of junk, and nobody wanted it. We still wanted it. I was still playing stuff, but most people were tired of that. Suddenly something new came along and got people interested again, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that, we're going to head over to 252 News and Reviews.
All right. Well, the Stranger Things 2 teaser dropped during the Super Bowl, and it looks great. That retro look that we around here love, and the 80s references were big. Eggos, Ghostbusters, high-waisted jeans rule, and this hopefully great sequel to the highly watchable Netflix favorite drops on Halloween.
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be another good one from the Netflix. I mean, people are getting really excited, and this is coming right on the heels of, I want to say, at the SAG Awards that the cast won for, what was it, Best Ensemble or something like that?
Yeah.
Funny thing is, because they had little red carpets events and red carpet Super Bowl and stuff like that.
All of them.
And the kids are really going, little black kid, little kid with missing teeth. Everybody's doing this thing. And when they talk to the boys, they always talk to them in the group.
Yeah.
But they definitely are already separating, what is their name? Millie Bobby Brown from the rest.
Millie Bobby Brown, yeah.
And what is she like? She's British or something like that, right?
I don't know. I'm just keeping the mystery of it.
Because I mean, they're really. You almost can see the writing. If I was those little boys, I'd be like, all right, we probably got one more season in us before Millie Bobby Brown
blows up.
It blows up, and she's out of here. And she's like the next Natalie
Portman
/ Jodie
She's already
Foster.
blowing up, and one of the things that they suggested, and there's pictures going around, like she wanted to be, when they do the young Princess Leia film, they say they wanted to use her because she's got the young Carrie Fisher thing down.
She does.
That's right.
But then they cast someone else, though, of course, because she's already busy, and they didn't want to get her into another franchise right off the bat when she's still in one that's just forming right now.
Right.
But I mean, but obviously the writing is on the wall. If I was those other three kids, and it's so sad. I don't even know their names right now. I'm just saying the other.
I think they're just enjoying the ride right now.
Yeah, maybe they don't. Maybe they don't know.
Yeah, when you're that young, you don't think about this.
I bet their parents know.
Well, I'm sure they do. But when you're that young, you're not looking 30 minutes into the future.
Okay.
Now think about this.
Gears.
None of those kids were old enough to see the movies that they're ripping on, basically.
Oh God, no!
Oh heck no! Yeah.
They've borrowed from so many films that those kids were born like 15, 20 years after they came out.
I'm saying all those kids were born in like 2000, between 2000 and 2005.
It just seems weird because they do such a good job of making you believe that, oh yeah, they're 80s kids. Like, no, we were the 80s kids. These kids are way later.
I'm saying.
Way later.
My kids are older than those.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
So, in true retro nerds, in the true retro sense, this information here is about a week or so old. But
that's what we do.
Ben Affleck is not going to be directing the Batman.
What?
At this point, it just seems like there's probably too much on his plate with starring, writing, producing, and directing. He has now chosen to bow out. When we had reported earlier when he was saying things like, well, if the script is right, maybe I'll direct. And it's like, wait, you're writing the script. Why wouldn't it be a problem? But it's just probably, in my opinion, my humble opinion, it's probably he got a lot of things going on in his personal life. That last movie he didn't do as good as what they were expecting. And at the bottom line, it's too much risk and not enough reward. I mean, you already are, even though he was sad flecked when Batman versus Superman came out.
So bad
but it was highly touted that he was the best thing out of that movie. It was nothing for him to be sad about. But I do understand if this is the case where it's like, look, it's hard enough getting in and out of that suit to be like action and cut while I'm in the suit. It's probably too much. So with that being said, if this still makes for, I mean, they can get, I mean, there's so many other people that they can get. I mean, I'm saying,
for sure,
quality people that they can get to direct.
Yeah. Do you think he's still going to be the Batman, or you think he's just going to?
Oh no, he's definitely going to be the Batman. I mean, there's too much money and stuff invested at this point. Hey. I mean, he's still a producer. He's still an EP on the show.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, on the movie, and he's still writing.
So that's a lot of money to walk away from, and a lot of money.
Yeah, money spent, money invested. You can get.
No, you're already bringing people to the plate.
Well, you know what? You can get Tim Miller.
Yeah, there you go.
You get George Miller. You can get any of the Millers.
you can get Frank Miller for that matter, but it's not going to necessarily be any better than what we would have had, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think a Ben Affleck directed Batman probably would have been the cat's meow. I think that would have been the penultimate feather in the proverbial cap of the DCEU. If you think about Comic-Con last year, all those directors that they brought out on stage, and literally there's like 2 left. It's like Zack Snyder and the chick that's directing Wonder Woman. I can't remember her name. I wish I had it. That's bad journalism on my part.
We should have had that because I'm looking forward to the Wonder Woman movie being a feminist.
I feel like that was almost at this point, and I know this is a little bit of a segue, but I feel like there's so much more pressure now riding on Wonder Woman to be successful. Because I think if this one tanks, and I'm not talking financially, I'm talking critically, because even Batman vs Superman and Suicide Squad, they both made their money.
Yeah, for sure.
They made their money.
It'll make money. It'll make money.
This needs to be critically. It has to go over. It has to go over. And if I feel like, I mean, but at the end of the day, somebody over at Marvel Studios is just kicking their feet up, smiling. It's like, it doesn't even matter what we do next.
Feet up on the desk like that 80s kid with all the cool shit around him in his room.
Kevin Feige is looking like Vince McMahon right now. Eating them all up.
Well, switching gears, we're going to go straight to Ralphie D Recommends. All right. It's a recommendation that we already do, but I'm calling it Ralphie D Recommends. Big Trouble in Little China. If you haven't watched this John Carpenter classic in a while, or you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and rewatch it or watch it. A young and piping hot Kim Cattrall. My man, Kurt Russell. A bunch of awesome one-liners and the inspiration for one cool Mortal Kombat character. That's right, Raiden. Maybe the best Mortal Kombat character. But yeah. I watched this this past weekend, still caught up in it. It wasn't just nostalgia. It's a great movie, man. Good watch.
Yeah, it came out about 30
going on 31.
Going on 31
still
years
within
ago.
that 30-year range.
Does it hold up? Kind of. I mean, if you love it, it holds up. I mean, if you're brand new to it, yeah, you're in a world where you live in where everything is all CGI and everything.
Yeah,
because the monster looks like a huge
but it's
puppet.
a practical effect though, which we miss nowadays. All right.
So, yeah, but you know, you got a 7-foot,
weird looking creature. But kudos to the creature and effects makers. And there you have it, news and reviews.
So remember where we were when we first saw the Nintendo? I'm going to ask you this question. Where were you when you first saw the Nintendo? I think it's the same place I was.
Almost. Actually, the first time I saw the Nintendo, I walked over to my friend's house after school. This was 8th grade. It could have been 7th grade. Shit.
It had to have been 7th grade, yeah.
It was 7th grade. My buddy Jerry Martin went to his house after school, and his dad had picked him up something from Korea. His mom was Korean, and his dad was in the military. He would go to Korea every now and then and pick up these awesome packages, manga, comic books, freaking video games like Nintendo's, and he also had what do you call the giant robots like Jesus, Robotech. He was really into Robotech back then, and always had some cool stuff. I went over his house one day and he had a Nintendo.
He had a Famicom though. If it was coming from, so technically you can say, well, that wasn't really a Nintendo, but yeah, you definitely have a point. But, when was the first time you saw the American Nintendo in the gray box? With the Rob robot, the Zapper, and etc.
Well, for me, this story, it's not as creepy as it sounds, but there was a guy. It's gonna be creepy. There was a guy in the neighborhood, in the apartment complex I lived in. It had two main quad areas. One was square shaped, one was rectangular shaped. The rectangular shaped one, we always played football. The square shaped one, we would always play kickball.
Grassy areas,
And the square shaped one was right over there by the park. So we would play, no sand tag and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all playing kickball one day, and there was a guy who lived in an apartment that was right there next to the thing, and he would always see us out there playing. And he was like, "Hey guys, hey kids, you guys want to see something cool?" And with us being kids, we all went over there, and so I'm like, "Oh yeah." And this guy, he had this game console, and we all had like the Atari, whatever, 2600 and stuff like that. So we just looked at that box and we're like, "Oh, that's a new one," and he cut it on and he let us play.
What's it like to play the Nintendo Entertainment System? The Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
Now, the thing is, my brain also, I do remember that when, because we would go over to his house and play games, but it was one of those things where he always left the door open, like his front door was left open. And I think it's because he, probably being a young adult himself, because he was only a little bit older than us. He would, he always left the door open. He had a girlfriend who lived with him and stuff like that. It really wasn't creepy. He was just a real good dude. And we lived in, like I told you before, we lived in the hood, so there was always shit going on in our apartment complex and stuff like that. And this guy was just a good dude who had the new hot game system, and we'll let the neighborhood kids come over and play. And we were on like a round robin rotation. Mm-hmm. And me and my buddy Mango, we go over there and we play games until we eventually got. I couldn't even tell you how. I don't even think I ever had a Nintendo. I think my brother got a Nintendo, and I played his. And he's my younger brother. So I don't think I had, like, in the 80s.
I remember you had the VCR and he had the gaming system.
And basically, like the first games that we played, I mean, it must have been Super Mario Brothers, but I remember playing Contra. I remember playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Mm-hmm. I mean, and we only had a couple of games that we played all the time.
Duck Hunt had to be in that rotation.
Do you know what's funny? He didn't have the gun. He didn't have the gun.
Mm-hmm. My first time using the gun was at the mall. I remember when they had it. You remember that store that was downstairs? It wasn't. Was it a toy store or was it a gifts shop or something? But they had it set up and that's TV.
I thought no. KB Toys was upstairs.
Downstairs, like halfway through the mall, where.
What was it called? Carl's?
Yes, that was exactly it.
That's it. Carl's.
Nice.
Good pull.
Hey.
Yeah.
Never bought shit, only played shit in the store.
It was totally like they had everything there, and it was so high priced that you never bought it, which is why they had everything there, because everybody's like, cool. Oh, hell no.
I'm gonna go upstairs to KB Toys and buy my stuff.
And I'm gonna take my quarters to the gold mine and play more video games there.
Yeah, Carl's though, that is where like the first. I remember the demo they had there was that first the box, and it was encased in that plastic thing with the little button you could push to switch to 30 seconds of game, and it looked like a new. They were trying to market it as a toy as opposed to a video game, because people were like, no more video games, we're not going to stock those. You know, and it worked because what were we in there doing mostly? They didn't even have the controller at first. It was like, you know, set up for duck hunt. So there was kids shooting at the screen, and there was kids looking at the robot. And later on, they said, "Hey, guess what? It plays Mario too." You know, like, oh.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny you said. I do remember that because we weren't. They didn't. It was just you hit the demo and it would show you the graphics. Look what you could do if you had a controller.
But you don't.
But you don't. So you could just watch this, and that's what we were doing. We did that. I mean, yeah, we would spend hours in there.
It felt like it. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember. This is how old I am. I remember at J.C. Penney, they used to sell the gaming systems. They had them set up to where you could play them, and they had the monitors up. They had a Intellivision, Atari 26. It may have been 5200. I can't remember. And then a ColecoVision. They were all set up, and you could just play each one of them. And that was heaven at J.C. Penney.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would. I think that qualifies as my favorite time in the universe. You know, we were like 6 or 7, and they could go to the store and say, "Okay, we'll leave you guys here," and we'd play those video games unattended for like an hour, and nobody would.
For an hour, and nobody would.
No kidnappings or murders.
Exactly. I'm about to say. That's how innocent that time was. Because my mom, what she would do is when she would go and shop, and you know, Fairfield was such a small town, you always ran into somebody. And my mom was always a talker. You wonder where I get it from. And she was long-winded. So I would always go back like every 15, 20 minutes. My mom would still be there talking, and I'd go back, and then I'd come back another 15, 20 minutes. And then I'm like, shit, she's still there. I got hella time.
Remember what else we could do at the same time then? Like I could, you know, you could go to a Kmart and do those same kiosks for the video games. Then you could go look around the record section. Then you could go to the toy section and top it off with the electronic games, where you used to have like the, you know, handheld Pac-Man and all the tabletop. Do you remember the glass cases where you had to stick your hands through the holes to play because people were trying to steal?
That's right.
And that's an anti-theft thing that is no longer with us.
Yeah, they look like miniature versions of the video games that they represented. And my favorite was Tron. It was Tron Deadly Disc. I think that's what it was.
I would say that I remember we had the Donkey Kong, which a detonation device in Red 2. If you ever want to watch that one. I believe it was Red 2. And
point of fact, that was Frank's Donkey Kong, and I can't remember what I traded him for that. There was a small trade.
I remember
I used to play the hell out of that at his house, and then we finally traded for something. So
we played that game all the way into you couldn't even see Donkey Kong no more. It would just be, what are we doing?
And it wasn't Mario on the game. It was some. Do you know who that guy was?
Just like Jumpman. Actually, I think it was probably Mr. Game & Watch, wasn't it? Because it was like one of the Game & Watch series.
Exactly. Oh boy, we went off on an 8-bit tangent.
Yeah, well, we knew it was going to happen.
That's where the tale takes us. I mean, that's really, you know, everything was around at that same time, and it was a time for things to, you know, new and exciting for the video game. Now every time they come out with a new system, it's like, yep, it does the same thing. It just does it more, you know, it looks better than it did the last time, more realistic. You know, no real innovation other than, you know, Nintendo tries and winds up failing in the marketplace. But
well, I would say, I mean, you're talking back in that time period, in that era. I mean, when the Nintendo started getting hot and everything, there was like the other ones started falling off really bad. You know, it was like you wasn't getting no more games for Atari. All that stuff was just becoming obsolete and phasing out.
252.
Donis, pull yourself together.